Welcome back to the channel. It is new air compressor day in the shop, which is fantastic news because old air compressor over here has died once again. Since I've owned that thing, I have used this one twice, and on the second time, it let me down one more time. I do have an air compressors and air tools playlist where you can go get caught up on all this happenings if you want. The link to that will be up there and down the description. And I do plan to resurrect this guy one last time and just kind of shuffle him off into the corner. But that will be a different video. Today, we're just going to do a couple quick things on this guy, kind of get you guys introduced to why I bought this model and stuff like that, and get it broken in so that I don't have zero functioning air compressors. I need at least one online, so it's time to get Mr. DeWALT there going. But first things first, this guy is like 156 pounds. And unloading it out of a station wagon with no tailgate by myself was a bit of a chore, so I completely just mangled the DeWALT sticker, which is going to annoy me every time I look at it. So rather than be annoyed, let's customize. And we will have some fun instead. May I introduce you to Mr. White. If you don't get the joke, that's okay. This will just make me laugh every time I see it, instead of make me angry that I screwed up the sticker. Mr. White here is a DXCM301, which is a 30-gallon, 155 PSI, sourced in USA, which just means Chinese, air compressor. If you go out shopping around for one of these, you're gonna see a great many compressor setups that look just like this. The one thing that separates them all, that I was able to see anyway, is right down here under the control box for the thing, right there. And what that is a big giant, what I'm hoping is 2-inch NPT fitting that just necks down or reduces down to 3/8 NPT for all the plumbing coming out of it. All of the other similar compressors I saw on the market did not actually have this fitting. They just had this bung welded to the tank with a 3/8 NPT hole dropped in the top of it for all this stuff to go on. The reason why this is an important feature for me is because I want larger plumbing than this coming out of it, because these little 3/8 pipes are pretty restrictive to airflow in the long run. So one of the things I'm going to end up doing eventually is popping that guy out of there and getting a different one in there so I can just have more volume of air. And I would just prefer to swap out a part than to actually start drilling on a pressure vessel if I were to buy one of the other brands. So if you're shopping and you come across a good deal on a Cobalt or a Husky or whatever, and it's the same basic setup, you'll know them right away when you see them, and you don't care about that, then hey, more power to you. But of its kind, that is the reason I bought this particular one. The reason I bought this style in general is because, short and sweet of it is the most compressor that I can afford. And I mean that in a few different ways. It's 120 volt or 110 volt, whatever you want to say here in North America. I do not have 220/240 in my shop, so this is as good as it's going to get. And all the places I've lived over the last 20 years, we'll just say two-phase. I've never had two-phase power in any of them, so this is the best I could do. So just regular old wall plug. There's a small amount of debate because DeWALT also offers a compressor that is like around the same physical size, but it's like a 27-gallon tank and a 200 PSI compressor. And it is essentially double the price of this one. And I did not feel that that was worth it. Just running the math out and everything, it's about a 30% boost in performance, but for double the money, it was going to be over $1,000 for that compressor, and I just didn't want to do that. This compressor I actually ended up getting a smoking deal on. I tried to put the word out, so maybe one of you guys got the deal too when it happened. But I ended up paying, I think, just under $400 for this thing. Today in April of 2022, and yes, this thing's been sitting around for 4 months. That was a Christmas price that I got. This thing is now almost $700. So I guess I'm glad that I got the deal I got when I got it. But short and sweet of things is that is why I got this one. Yeah, basically it's the best I can do and the best I cared to pay for. Also had some features I wanted, specifically that nut. This motor is also rewirable to two-phase if I want to in the future, so that is cool. And really, that's about it. So now the thing to do is get down to just a couple of quick details I want to do before we get it broken in, and quit the rambling. Alrighty, so the first thing I want to do before we even get going is I want to take the screws off of this belt guard. I know this is kind of hard to see, but there is a belt that runs between the compressor and the motor. So I want to take this guard off so I can actually measure up the size of that belt so I can order a spare. I can just get a spare by the DeWALT part number, but it's like $40, and I'm sure that is in reality about a $12 belt. So let's just see if we can get some access to get some measurement going on. Alrighty. To my eyeballs, this appears to be about a 1/2 inch belt, and I believe it is. Calipers are measuring that at 482. So that is what we're going to run with. And to get a length, I just have a handy bundle of string here that I'm just going to tape onto the belt, run it around, and cut it off wherever it's convenient for me. And I did already look. The motor is pretty much right in the middle of its adjustment. So if I needed to go a little either way on belt size, I certainly could. I will almost always elect for shorter rather than longer, because a new belt will always be a little tight at first. When they break in, they loosen up. I think, yeah, right about there. The world's dullest pair of scissors. There we go. Little hard to show the whole thing, but take my word for it, it came up just on 46 inches. So we're looking for a 1/2 by 46 belt. And for whatever it's worth, this is a Condor A44 belt on it. I would think that 44 would mean 44 inches, but I certainly wasn't wrong by 2 inches, so I'll take my chances. So another thing I want to check real quick is I want to pull these air filters. This is a 2-cylinder compressor, so there's piston in here, jug, but it is just a single stage, so this one does not actually pump into that one the way it might look like it does. But it is just a single stage. But I just want to check the air filters, and make sure that there is no foreign objects or anything in there. I think this piece of wire is just retaining the cap. The filter itself looks okay, and I don't see any tidbits or packing material or anything up in there, so that's good. In the long run, I do intend to put larger filters on it, or at least better filters on it. There's a whole bunch of things we're going to do in the long run. Would not have guessed this would be the hard part of the job. So looking at the orientation of that one, it appears that this one should go on like that. I guess I should have paid better attention before I took it apart. Again, I didn't expect this to be a rocket science kind of deal. Okay, well, I'm just going to take the other one apart too, so then I'm double screwed. Let's see if I did something wrong, or... There we go. Okay, so the spring stayed in the lid. Looks all good up in the cylinder head. Let's see if I'm smart enough to reinstall this one. So that was ridiculously more difficult than it ever should have been. These are designed to be like kind of halfway loose. That's what that spring is for. It actually pushes the cap off of the housing, and it makes it annoying to put them on and off. But it did give me the opportunity to check my much nicer Solberg housing off of my upgraded Harbor Freight to see if it's the same threads and whatnot, and it is. So I just need to order 2 of these boys to set Mr. DeWALT here right with the world. In the meantime, we'll put our junker back on. And the final thing we're going to do is we're going to take a look at the compressor oil. You can see that red dot right in the middle of the sight gauge, and that the oil level is straight across the dot. That is what we're looking for. I shipped this thing face down when I brought it home. In fact, I shipped it with the sight gauge down. I wasn't even thinking about it. It didn't even occur to me that this thing would have shipped with oil in it, and I cannot believe it didn't leak any. So that is kind of a nice thing. So I think that is our list of initial requirements. Let's turn that to off for the time being, I guess. Now it's time to actually plug the thing into the wall. Take the sticker off of the cord. No, it's not bent up or anything. I think we're ready to roll. I'm gonna get my heat gun and just kind of pay attention to some of the temperatures and stuff on it as we go. The break-in procedure for this thing is to run it with the drain on the bottom of the tank open for half an hour. I'm way too lazy for that, and I already know that I'm going to be doing something different on the drain than what this thing came with. So what I have here instead is just a set of fittings I made up that will just vent the tank to the atmosphere just right on the outlet, so it won't build me pressure while it's breaking in. We'll get the same result. It is also probably like 39, 40 degrees in the shop. It's not particularly humid, so this should be a great day to do this. So let's get set up to do it. Oops, I very nearly forgot our last day zero upgrade item, which is this handy dandy hour meter. We're gonna throw this guy on before we run it so we can keep track of how many hours the thing has ever run. Doing that shouldn't be too terribly difficult. I've just got a lamp cord here that came off of an appliance that recently passed away. Wire strippers. Just gonna cut some length out of it. Cut some strip off of it. There we go. You know, something like so. I have some heat shrink that is way too big for this wire, which is okay, because the goal is for that heat shrink to actually come up here on those tabs and cover them. Eventually, I'm probably going to 3D print an enclosure for this thing, but just for today and probably the next 10 years, we're just going to do it this way. Now I need to take some spade connectors, crimp them on. Like so. This thing does have a plus and a negative marked on it. So if you can't tell, that's the positive. And just to test it and see if it works, I've only got this 2-prong guy here, but it is a polarized plug. So it's one of the plugs where you've got a wide leg and a not wide leg, and that wide leg should be our neutral. So I'm just gonna take my meter here, clip an end on to the neutral or the wide leg, come over here and find which one it goes with. That guy. I'm just gonna take a piece of black tape and put on that wire. So now that's the guy. Now is also a great time to mention that if you're learning everything you know about electricity from me right now, this moment, you should probably stop. But anyway, here's my negative as marked on the back of the switch, or hour meter. Plug him in. There's my positive. Plug him in. And there you can kind of get the whole vision for what we were going with the shrink tube. Got my heat gun. Did a pretty good job. I'm still gonna run around it with some tape just as soon as it cools off for a second. Alrighty, now it should be about as safe as anything else I ever do. And just for safety's sake, we're just gonna clamp it on right there while I plug it in. So I'm not holding the frickin' thing. It did come out of the box with 1/10 of an hour on it. I think that's just probably from factory testing. Let's plug it in and see if all the lights go out. I hear it ticking. Nothing sparked. 1/10 of an hour is 6 minutes, so we'll see if we get 2/10 here in 6 minutes. It is right about 6 minutes later, and it is just rolled up on the tube pretty nicely. So I'd say it's pretty accurate. One last quick thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna plug it into the kilowatt, just because I'm curious to see what kind of power it draws. I'm gonna guess not very much, but we'll see. So little it's not even detecting it, so under 1/10 of a watt. Not enough that we're gonna upset anything with it. Alrighty, so our next move is to make our way inside of that box so we can connect it up. Looks like that's just a Phillips. Looks like that wasn't any big deal. It looks like the guys I want to tie into are these bottom ones back in here. There's like a 2-tiered kind of thing going on here. And the white guy right here should be our power. And then we can pick up either of the black wires because they're both neutral, shouldn't matter. So when this switch switches, it'll energize both the motor and the hour gauge off of this lead. And once again, it's looking like Phillips. I've got to take this top off to even get to the bottom. So the wire's just simply in the way. Also kind of examining the box here to see if there's even room to run that wire in. I think there is. I think I can just feed it right up next to the main power wire. Wonder if I back the clamp off, if it'll buy me anything. There's a clamp back here. It's holding the wires. It is on there real freaking tight. I just cut the end off that cord because we're not going to need it. But I didn't cut it back far enough because I don't need that sticker. And I don't need the many feet of wire that are here. And just to temporarily help me keep things straight, I just cut the black wire, or the neutral wire, which I guess it's the same thing, on back just a little bit further. Just so I know which one's what. All right, so I would like some amount of slack in this just so it's not a nightmare to service, but not piles. I think that'll do. So that guy is gonna end up right there. Yep, and we need to put a spade on him. Since these are all gonna be ganged up right on top of each other, I don't want that plastic thing in there in my way, so I just pulled it off of that guy. And they're all inside an insulated box and all that good stuff anyway, that is also grounded. So if anything ever should happen to go wrong, it should all be fine. But again, see disclaimer about following my electrical advice. What I probably should do, and might do in the future, is just bridge both wires into one connector. So just strip them both back and recrimp them into one connector. It'd be just a lot cleaner. But for today, this is gonna be all right. that'll be fine. Alrighty. Alright, so they're both in there. They are indeed both in there. Nice and tight. Put that guy back where he belongs. Alright. I think just because I'm a lazy turd, I am going to pick up the neutral just off of here, which would just be off of the wall. Alright, right about there. Alrighty. Alright. All nice and taut again. See about getting our cord grip re-gripped. Yep, we're good right there. Don't see any reason to go more crazy. Just let that guy, just let him dangle for now. Cover popped right back on like nothing happened. Sure that still turns. It do. So I do believe I'm just gonna get a couple zip ties and just run that guy on there just like that for now. And for probably the next 10 years. Just to prove I'm not a complete animal. Get my flush cutters. Oh yes, nice, nice. Should more or less stay there. Alrighty, here comes the moment of truth. Plug it in and see if the lights go out. And also, we should not hear that meter running. Lights didn't go out, and I don't hear the meter running. All right, well, now I think we're finally ready to light the thing off. Alrighty, so really, hopefully, there should not be much to see here. Should just be plug it in and off to the races we go for a half hour. And I will check the result with my hour meter. And I will probably occasionally just monitor the temp just to see. Take one last look around. See any reasons why it shouldn't run. Here we go. Sweet. Holy crap, it's quiet. It's way quieter than I'm used to. Making error. Alrighty, so no dramas. It runs a lot cooler than I expected. Pretty much the highest temperatures I'm seeing are in the back of the cylinder heads, and I was seeing occasionally like 100F. And right now, just as a reference in the shop, it's like 46. To my surprise, that little aftercooler loop between the two cylinder heads actually does some good. One of the things that kind of surprised me is just how much this thing vibrates, but it seems to like vibrate everything down here. I think, like, yeah, it gets that oscillation from the rubber feet it's on, and then everything that's hanging off as an appendage just shakes to beat hell. So I think I may try and come up with some rubber washers and see if I can at least rubber mount the compressor. So I think there's enough freedom of motion that I've got, you know, probably 1/4 inch or something, stick some grommets under it or something. But all in all, she's doing good. Temperature's not climbing on the cylinder heads or anything now that it's sat for a little bit. In fact, it's cooling off. I suppose the next thing to do is remove my little guy here and let it actually come up on pressure. See if it's gonna shut off at, what, 155 like it's supposed to? Let's find out. And right there is 150. So let's see what happens. So it took it about 8 minutes to come up to 155. Seeing cylinder head temps around 180. Now that it actually has to work for a living. There's the other one. And it's starting to get that hot oil, new paint, etc. kind of smell. But all in all, it's doing what it's supposed to. Came right up to just a little bit over 150 and blew off, so all right. I don't hear anything hissing horribly, so that's good news too. So I'm just gonna let it sit like that overnight and see if anything explodes off of it or blows up or whatever, see if it has any gross leaks. Air compressors always will leak just a little bit. With this one being literally brand new, I wouldn't expect to see a lot overnight. But I'm gonna say she's ready to go, or ready for the next things I am gonna do with it. So I hope you guys enjoyed taking a little bit of time with me to get to know Walt. We're gonna have him around for quite a while. I'm gonna be doing quite a lot of work with him. I'm sure a lot of you will enjoy seeing that too. This will be a reoccurring topic. There's things I already know I wanna do to it and things that will come up in the future as we go along. But we're joined at the hip at this point. Speaking of joined at the hip, appreciate all you guys stopping in for this video. We'll catch you on the next one. I'm Max, that's Saddington Bear, and we make videos like this all the time. Here are a couple links to some other videos we've made, and we really appreciate you guys stopping in.